What's up, guys? Ronin, man. So the road less traveled. There's that great quote. I took the road less traveled and it's made all the difference. Robert Frost. Might not be exact, but that's basically the quote. And this is the situation you're in right now. As a man, as you understand that things are not set up for success for you, that you cannot go on autopilot any longer. You need to take control of your life. You cannot fall into the traps that society has for you because there is no hope. There's no future in them. Or if you're on this podcast, there's a very good chance. If you're listening to Ronin, man, there's a very good chance that that's how you see life. And it's like, you're like, wait a second. I was doing everything I thought I was supposed to do, but it ain't working. And I ain't getting the benefit. And I'm not happy. And it's like nothing is going right. I need to change. I need to see things differently. So when you do this type of thing, okay, when you make a change, I think a lot of guys really underestimate the danger of going your own way. It is I got to tell you, there is dangers on every corner. When you go off the path, society has a path for you. Now, it might seem to you in the matrix as you're first waking up, you might say, wait a second, this is bullshit. I don't want this. You know what I mean? Like everything's bad, this and that. But as you start to break away, or I can say definitely for myself, having broken away since the 80s, I have encountered many demons, okay? Many challenges that I can't even, sometimes I try to explain them for you guys, but sometimes I can't even put them into words. But the thing is, when you don't do what everyone does, you're faced with all these challenges that you're not ready for. They just hit you out of nowhere. Like there's no one to advise you on what's coming next. So if you go to university and then you get a job and then you have trouble and you're not happy in your job, you can ask a lot of people for advice because they'll say, well, what do you like about it? There's a series of questions. There is things you can do to get into the next stage where you want to be. Now, and that's fine. That works for a lot of people. That type of life, what should I do? Well, you're a certain age. You might want to, find a girl, get married. You might want to, get a certificate, right? You might want to do this and that. But when you go off that path, when you really go off that path, man, danger faces you at every corner. And the reason why is just, I just give you a couple of reasons. Like here in Thailand, once you, let's say, for example, and I'm not saying any of these examples are part of the path that I'm recommending or you should take. I'm just giving them examples so that you can see what it means when a man breaks away from the path that society has. Okay, so when you're back home, let's go to that. When you're back home in the suburbs, everything kind of makes sense. The garbage guy comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, recyclables on this day. When you don't feel right, you go to the doctor. When he gives you medicine, you describe your symptoms, you visit your parents. I mean, this life, as long as it works out for you, if you get lucky in both professionally and you get very lucky with your friends, and let's say you get very lucky in a relationship. Now, obviously, none of these are going to be perfect, but let's just say you're on the lucky side. Okay, there's always a scale. Forget the black and white thinking. Black and white thinking does not get you anywhere in life. There's a scale. Some people make better choices or have better luck. And so let's just say the guy's on that side of the scale where he's basically happy. His life is not perfect, but he's basically happy where he is. And he knows where he's going. He knows what's going on. Then it's all very predictable because there's tons of guys he can talk to. I mean, he can watch a mainstream TV show and he might get some good advice, actually. Somebody says, hey, look, I watched a Kiyosaki video yesterday that was quite good about protecting your assets. And it was a mainstream video, but he was saying, you want a limited partnership, an LLC, don't avoid sole proprietorships to protect your assets. And, and partnerships. This is great advice. And this is standard entrepreneurial 101, right? Make sure you have the right entity set up so that your assets cannot be taken away by a frivolous lawsuit, right? So there's different things you can do to protect yourself. But that's kind of general advice. And the average guy who's trying to, like, let's just say the average guy is not boring. Okay. I'm just saying the average guy, let's say the average guy he has a job. He saved a lot of money. He bought real estate. He made a lot of money on that, which is pretty common, right? Now he's got money. He wants to start a business. He's going to start a business. He watches a Kiyosaki video, tells him what type of entity he should set up. He does set that up. Then he gets sued by somebody. Let's say somebody does a fake slip and fall in his business, and then he's protected because the assets are not in his name, and he moves on to the next stage. So now he's got his assets, he survived a dangerous situation, and now he goes on and gets more advice. And this is a very good life. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that life. The thing is if, and I'm not saying, you shouldn't do any of these things, but if you take a new route, okay, let's just say that you want to do something completely different. And it's pretty audacious what we're talking about here, guys. I mean, we are asking a lot of life. We're not just normal guys who are like, hey, I'm going to do this. I think in general, there's a very intelligent men and some women listening to this who are like, wait a second, I see the value in that. Like I can see that. My grandfather, whatever, I can see that. But I want more. It's very audacious. It's like, I want more. The problem is that more, it leads you into total unknown, because all of a sudden you're unshackling from these things that subconsciously keep you in order. So like there's so many things that protect you in regular society. Like if you're at your job, okay, and you suddenly slump over, right? You slump over. Somebody will call the ambulance and you will be taken to a hospital. Let's just say, for example, a guy moves to Thailand. Now he's surrounded by people who, depending on his circumstance, where he chooses to live, how long he's been here, what he's got going on, all these different things. But it's very common that a guy, when he moves overseas, will go through a period where he's very lonely or at great risk for scams, for things that he didn't really understand, things that are new. There's always new danger when you move to a new place. There's opportunity and there's also danger. So very common for guys to get really sabotaged by these original challenges, because he can't just watch a video about how to not fall into let's say a third world, second world dangerous situation. Because a lot of the videos a lot of the guys who fall into these situations don't make it. They get thrown off balconies. They drink themselves to death. They're completely confounded and confused by these situations, and they don't have and I'm just talking about moving overseas into a third world country, where they don't have a job, like they're making money online, or they have a retirement saved up. There's nobody watching them, man. They're on their own, which is an exhilarating feeling in the beginning. And also they're in a new environment. So new challenges, new things. So what happens? What often happens is the advice that they get is from very somewhat untrustworthy sources, or things that seem untrustworthy to him. So let's say you're a German guy and you work for Siemens and you're like a top manager, you saved a lot of money, you succeeded in life. You did everything you're supposed to do, right? And you wore the right clothes, you said the right things, your vocabulary, your everything from your posture to the way you studied to the career you chose to your personal relations and your ability to present yourself and your honesty and all these things you've spent years preparing for. So when you look for advice, you're going to look for somebody like yourself naturally. You're not going to go, for example, you're not going to wake up a homeless guy who tries to punch you in the face, and then you say, no, don't punch me in the face. Like, what do you think about investments? Like, what's your advice on that? You're not going to do that, right? Because you're going to be like, wait a second, that person has nothing to offer me, so I'm going to go to this other person. Now, politically correctness aside, this is what everybody does, guys, okay? This is what we all do. It's just that we don't tell people, but this is true. Some people we consider have nothing to offer us, right? Now, sometimes we're wrong. That happens too, right? But okay, so that German guy, he comes here, and he retires and he's got money. He is like in a very dangerous situation, actually. Oh my gosh. He has no comprehension of the risks that are in front of him. And he has nobody to listen to, because the guys who might know something, who might be able to offer him something are people that he wouldn't have respected before, perhaps. Okay, depending on where he is, obviously who he meets, right? But there might be somebody who seems very angry. He doesn't have a very good vocabulary. He never had a successful career. He might have not done those things that this guy thinks are important, right? But now in this new environment, he's got to change. He's got to be able to see that there are people who have things to offer him in this new environment who he wouldn't have asked before, and he has to show them respect. I learned that right away when I started traveling. Right away. I don't know why. I learned quickly when I came to Asia, Southeast Asia. There was some guys who were here, who had been here a long time. They were very cynical. They had a lot of experience. They were salty. They might have been, just personality-wise, very prickly, right? You know what I mean? Like, not in any way like where you want to hang out with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're it's not that they're bad. They're just like not easy to make friends with, right? But I immediately saw, contrast myself with other people. Other people would come in and say, "Oh, those old guys, they're all a bunch of, this and that." There was all these bad words that the young guys, and I was very young, I was in my early 20s, these guys would place on them. And I remember because I was staying in the youth hostels and people were telling me stuff, and they're like, "These losers, they couldn't do this back home." There's like all these negative things. But I immediately saw that what they're saying is true, like in many aspects. Those young guys, we were all on a track. We had all finished university. We were traveling. We were usually from middle-class families or lower middle class, upper middle class. There was a mix of guys who would stay in these hostels back in the 80s. But in general, we were educated, and we were kind of like open-minded type of people who wanted to get off the path of whatever our family wanted us to do, society wanted us to do, our girlfriends wanted us to do. We were somehow escaping from something that we saw coming down on us, which we're like, no, I don't want that. I know that makes sense. I know there's many good aspects of that, but I want something else. I think that was what we had in common. We really wanted something else. We really didn't, at that time, there was no internet. We didn't know what Asia offered. Like, it's so funny to think now. I didn't know about anything about Asia. I didn't even know about the girly bars. I didn't know about, I really didn't know. What did I know about? I didn't know. I thought of Asia, I guess I don't know what I thought of it. It's hard to think back what I thought, but I guess I thought of the Cultural Revolution pictures I had seen, starving people. There was millions of people starving to death, big bellies. Food was a big issue back then, so starvation was an issue. Africa, Asia, there was diseases, there was troubles. It wasn't a powerhouse like today. It was a totally different landscape. The Asia that I went to in my mind is completely different than what another guy comes to now. But of course, the guys that are coming now, they think I thought like them back then. They don't understand. I just wanted something new. I didn't want to fall. There was a track. Basically, what happened was there was a lot of reasons why I broke away. A lot of fucking reasons. But one of them was somebody that's very close to me. They started a very successful business, and I had an opportunity to join that business, and that would have meant to me, it would have meant neutering myself and never reaching my own potential. Okay, in my mind, because this business was very successful. Okay, the name of this business. Okay, so this business was enormously successful, and so I had a chance to get in at the beginning, right? And I don't think I think to give my criticism for myself, I don't think I really realized what a big opportunity it was. I didn't. What I saw at that time was I don't want to be anybody's bitch, basically, right? Even then, I was like, even though this is a good opportunity, even though there's a lot going on here, I want to do my own thing. I want to create my own, what you guys made, okay? I want to do that my own way, my own self. And looking back, it was so audacious for me to say that, because this is one of the most successful corporations in the world. Okay, this is no joke. And I'm here sitting here in my mind, my 22-year-old mind is, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what you guys did, but I'll do it on my own. The odds are like 10 billion to 1. And I did not succeed in doing what they did. It was really, what they did was amazing. I'm very happy with my life. I've reached many goals I want to reach. I realized that the goal that they had was not even the goal I want. There's so many things going on, but either way, the fact remains, I did not create a public company that's multinational, multi-billion dollars, almost $1 billion in sales a day on some days, on the best days for this. So I never, you know what I mean? Like, that was not my future. And I didn't, honestly, I did not have the potential to make that. I didn't have the mindset, whatever, so, but, like I say, I am extremely, extremely happy with my life. And I got to tell you, I am, you never make every perfect move, okay, in life. You got to accept that. If you can't accept that, you end up living in a fantasy. And the more you know yourself, and the better you move along, and the better kind of things that I'm talking about here in this episode, the better you do this stuff, the better your life will be, right? So how do you keep yourself on track? How do you reach new goals as they come up when you're totally going your own way? Like, it is more challenging than you think, okay? This period, okay? And so the road less traveled. Okay, so what is the road less traveled? There's many types of road less traveled. There's things that no one's done before, right? They're starting a new technology, the first quantum computer. There's that type of road less traveled. There's so many, and there's also the success road less traveled. So, for example, the Golden State Warriors right now, the basketball team, whether you like basketball, whatever, this is the 5th time they've been in the finals, right? And now they're having some challenges. And how I was watching this ESPN interview where they were saying, like, how do you reach? They were asking, like, successful basketball players. They're saying, how did you keep motivated? Because the problem is just basically break it down what they said, which was really great, I thought, is that when you're new, okay, when you hit your first NBA finals, for example, or World Cup or whatever the hell it is, it's almost like the world gives you a free bonus, and that is adrenaline. There's adrenaline that comes into your body. It's a very powerful thing, and it motivates you to go and, like, do the super normal, the beyond human type of things, right? Where you can play through whatever, because that adrenaline, just like, it's like when, similar to anything, like where you're just scared and you're in a fight, and the woman, she picks up the car and she, saves her child for that's adrenaline, right? So there's different, and there's also like playing hurt or staying focused for 45 minutes in a game where you never get that normal fatigue or whatever, right? That happens with adrenaline. And I think that's similar thing too, when you are, let's say, seducing your first woman. There's an adrenaline there. There's a I am going to do this no matter what. Now, once you have done something many times, it's difficult to get motivation. It's not as easy as before, because you suddenly don't have that adrenaline. And it's like very confusing to you as a man. You're like, wait a second, why am I not? Because, obviously you're motivated. Obviously you want to succeed. The Warriors, they want to win, right? And they're probably, as a without the education, you would say, what's wrong with me? Get motivated, go do it, right? Whereas the experienced guy's like, wait a second, I'm off the beaten track now. I am going my own way. Why? The reason why the Warriors are going their own way is because this will be a record. I think fifth finals in a row. I forget what the exact numbers are, but basically they're setting a new record. And so it's not the same as winning one championship now. It's winning several championships in a row. And so, but your body, unfortunately, is a normal human being. So it's when you get on the floor, all you see is the basketball and the rim and the other guys. And so the motivation doesn't, it's a logical, like, you know what I mean? Like the ability to shoot that basket, make that pass, do that defense is different than the overall viewpoint where you're like, I want to win 5 in a row. Okay. That's a logical thing. The other one is like more in the moment, emotional, reacting to things in real time. So what a man needs to do, and they said in the podcast, which I thought was really great. He said, what you need to do is you need to create something in yourself that makes that adrenaline happen. So you say, wait a second, forget the team. Everything that you thought about before, forget the team, forget winning, forget the trophies, forget the money. All this stuff's not going to motivate you. Forget the crowd, forget the TV interviews, forget the excitement, forget the challenge of fighting with another man. All this stuff is old news to you now, right? It's the 5th time. What will motivate you? You have to find that in yourself. So what a great shooter does is a great shooter says, wait a second, no one has ever hit X number of threes in a game. Or I want to be the all-time postseason scoring point guard champion. I want to be the top postseason, right? He has a new goal, and it's he has to create that goal in his own mind. He can't just let society give him the goal because he's already reached everything society thinks. And society's basically retards. So they're like, oh, just go win another one. The money will motivate you. Just go do it. Just like last time, right? Problem is every time for a man is new. Every single time is totally different challenge. So what he needs to do is in his mind is like what I would do is I would say, you're such a fucking loser. Like you've only shot, you... I'd say, you fucking loser, man. You cannot look at you, man. You're just like another point guard. You're just not doing anything special. Like, look at Ray Allen, right? Look at Steve Curry. These guys, they killed you in this. And so my mind would say, I would picture myself in my mind where it's me, Steve Curry, Ray Allen, and those guys like say up on stage getting all these awards, and me just like watching on TV, on a black and white TV, like a loser, maybe some fat bitch with me, and like an old, like I say I'm, drunk, and there's like cheap beer, like plain label, fucking Ralph's beer or something, right? And then like I'm an old couch, and I'm like, I could have been somebody. I was a great point guard. And the woman's like, shut up, you're picking up the garbage, So I create this in my mind, this story. And then I say, wait a second. That's me now. I don't want to be like that. No way. I'm not going to do that. I want to be that guy who everybody's interviewing. Number 1. I want to see the number. I want to see the book. And I would start to create that in my mind. Okay, this is the NLP technique, right? And I would create that in my mind. I'd say, I'm on TV. I'm number 1. I did it. I beat those guys. And then in the secret behind me, I would also say, and no one else knows why or how, right? Because I'm also proud of that ability to create those extra motivations and goals in myself, right? So whatever it is in your life, So for example, you're going to reach phases, okay, where you're going to be like tired, okay? You might be 50, you might be 40, you might be 30, you might be 60, you might be 70. I don't know. You might be whatever the thing is that you reach where you suddenly don't have that motivation to get out of bed anymore. This is when you need to go into a different mindset. You need to create your own. What is my fucking thing that I want to fucking do, right? It's not like just some, make a motivation. That's why I just said the word, bad words there, because this is like serious, man. You got to get in there and somehow find a way to kickstart that adrenaline and that anger inside yourself. We're like, no, this is not enough. I want more out of life. I want more. No, I will not tolerate this life anymore. No, that's the mindset. Okay. I would even yell louder, but there's people in that building. That's the mindset. You need to get in touch with that. Okay. That's how you reach it. And I'll just give you a couple examples as I end. And so whatever you do, okay, in life, okay, let me give you an example. let's say a girl's working in a bar. Okay, so she works in a bar, and it's a degrading job. Okay, it sucks. Guys touch her on the knee. She doesn't want guys to touch her on the knee. She has to laugh at jokes she doesn't want to laugh at. She has to wear a skirt she doesn't want to wear. She doesn't like her clothes. She doesn't like her boss. She doesn't like her coworkers. It's freezing ass in there. So she's cold all the time, right? So now what would a winner in that situation do? What would she do? Well, what she would do is, many people would say she'd quit, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, a lot of us in this world don't have what other people have, okay? I grew up in a situation that's different than you. I had to make my own way with what I had. This girl, she has what she has, okay? She's got her situation. She's got her mindset. Now, what can she do? What I would say, and what I respect, is a girl who says, okay, I don't like this, okay? So she's honest, right? She's like, this sucks, okay? Now, her mindset at that time might be, I hate all the people that I work with. You know, okay, this is, I don't know if this is like a good example, but okay, for example, let me just give you a quick rundown of business. Okay, there's different types of people in a business. Okay, there's people that do service, there's people that do sales, and there's people that do basic client management or business development. And there's people that do investment, and there's people that start entities and companies. And there's different aspects important. I mentioned those ones because they're important in this example. Okay, and especially for me as a salesperson who worked in sales, worked in business development, and understands and is honest with themselves. I think that's why I succeeded in my different businesses, because I was like, okay, here's what a loser does. Here's what a fucking loser does. A loser, a salesman, a loser in a bar. They're like, I cold call all the time. And my boss flies around on private jets and eats lobster. And he doesn't do crap, and I do everything. Or the girl in the bar is like, I'm sitting here, my job sucks, my life sucks. And then this other guy who's, let's say, business development type of guy they have at these clubs, and he brings in big clients, okay? So his job is to bring in clients, and then she services those clients. She brings them drinks, she makes them happy. She does all this work all night. It's very easy for her to think that guy is a loser, that he's stealing her money. She has to share her money with that guy. Same thing with the salesman. The salesman, cold calls, working hard, 3 a.m, doesn't have time to get his teeth cleaned. His glasses are broken. His computer's got a virus. His girlfriend's leaving him. He's tired. His suit is wrinkled. He's just like always like running to work. He's like 18 cups of coffee. It's easy to think he's a victim. It's easy, very easy to think you're a victim in life. Now, what does a winner do in that situation? In my experience, what do I do? What do I respect? Okay, do I respect? And a lot of people will tell you, they'll say, oh, quit that job. Don't take a crappy job like that. Don't be a salesman on commission. Or they'll say to the girl, oh, you got to quit that job as a bar, whatever. You got to go do something respectable, and like you're not getting the respect you deserve, and blah, blah, blah. I say no. I say, okay, that's fine. There might be that possibility. And that is worth considering, okay, that there's something completely different. But let's just say that you're in the situation, right? What do you do? Real life, okay? Real fucking life. You got an apartment, you got a car, you got a job, you're doing this. What do you do now? How do you stay motivated? What's your next goal? The thing you do is you want to say right away, you want to be honest with yourself. You want to say, wait a second, what am I doing and how does this business work? You want to start to think of the business as a whole organism, okay? So you say, oh, I'm the low-level new guy who works really hard, slaves away, and then there's the manager. Now, what is his job? Okay, what does he do? Because you're not thinking of the manager as your enemy. You're now thinking, I will be the manager, okay? What does he do that's different? And what kind of guy, navigates up there? Because what happens with losers, they all sit around the coffee pot, and they're like, the boss, he told me this, wants me to work on weekends, and then smart guys like sitting there going, I'm not going to join in that. Okay, what does the boss do? How did the boss get there? Who gets to the boss position? Who does not? Okay, and he does this quickly. This doesn't take a lot of time. Really, this is relatively easy. You say, okay, the boss did this. Okay, that's different kind of guy than that guy, that guy. Okay, so I'm going to start to implement those. Okay, now, You think that it ends there. No, I'm like, okay, what's next? Who's the manager of the manager? What does he do? Well, in a salesman role, you got sales guy, you got the manager managing the sales guys, and then you have the business development partner. Okay, so let's say at a consulting company, which I did a lot of work with consulting companies, is the business development manager often gets salaries of anywhere from say $300,000 to $1 million a year. What do? They're usually in their 50s, 60s, even 70s. And what they do is they manage these very, very large clients. So they might bring in, let's say they have a good relationship, a deep, deep, deep understanding of a business like Coca-Cola. Okay, so they understand how everything works in that business. They understand. They might have worked in Coca-Cola. They might have been a vice president. Really, these partners are serious guys. They really know what they're doing. They didn't get there by accident. And that's the thing about this whole thing. It's so easy to be jealous. Like everybody got there by accident. It was all because of his family. It was because of this. It's like, that's not the way to think to succeed. Now, don't think that way to start. There is some truth to that at certain times. But if you take that as your mindset, you're going to be a loser, 100%. Because you will not realize that most people created what they have, right? And that you are creating what you have now. There is bad luck in the world, okay? You can have a car accident and die tomorrow. And that obviously is not in the plan and not your fault. And you know what I mean? There's certain aspects of life which are outside of this, thing that I'm talking about. Disease, certain things. But those things aside, and obviously there's money and things. But if you want to succeed, if you want better, you got to not think like that. Okay, you can't go down that road, even though there is some truth to it. Okay, there's a limit. You just cannot. Don't let yourself do it. Okay, even if it's challenging and So business development. What does he do? He understands these large clients, and he has like a network of trust in these clients. The reason why you have a large client, you manage, let's say, Coca-Cola as a client. I managed Tokyo Mitsubishi Bank, which was the largest bank in the world. I got them as a client, and for my company in Tokyo, right? I brought them from like not a client to a client, and that was like one of the things I'm super proud of, because it was really what we were doing with them was high level stuff. We were working with the credit department. We were getting what are they called in English? Can't think in English. Debt backed by real estate. We were buying that, right? We were getting assets, like basically buying like golf courses. Like we'd buy like 18 golf courses that were troubled, or we'd buy a bunch of factories. We'd buy residential buildings, large residential properties, like $50 to $100 million, and we'd do commercial properties and things like that. So troubled assets, large assets. And I brought in that client, and it's because I was able to understand where I fit into the hierarchy, and just to give you an idea of what I thought in my mind, and I was actually correct. What I thought was this: okay, I was in Tokyo, I was a foreigner. There were already very large, very successful investment banks working in Tokyo, obviously. Now, they did the same thing we did. They would buy troubled assets, and they would turn them around. They would turn the management around and do that. Now, so obviously there's no hope, right? I mean, Goldman Sachs is already there. They're already working with them. Everything's easy. No problem. How am I going to get in as a small company? We were a team of 4, okay? And it was one secretary. It was basically 3 guys, right? How am I going to get an asset? How am I going to break in? Well, I realized that the situation is like this: is there's good assets and there's bad assets, okay? There's very attractive assets, and there's like complex, lots of moving parts, sticky, difficult to deal with assets, difficult to find, difficult to turn around, difficult to find buyers, difficult to finance, difficult to understand and manage because of old technology and, old school people, construction, like cement, old production facilities for iron ore, whatever it is, weird things that are not clean businesses. And any investment bank, they like the big, clean, easy ones, right? They want to buy a building with nobody living in it, right? Not just under construction, almost finished, troubled project. They buy it for a discount. They turn it around. They put a Starbucks in the first floor. They change they change the management structure from, let's say the structure of the business. There's say it's a condominium. They're going to turn it into a service department. They're going to have work with a company like Oakwood, somebody with a reservation system, and they're going to connect to that worldwide, and they're going to turn that building into like a very profitable, something like a hotel almost, right? So they turn it from a residential project in trouble with no commercial space in there and no reason to go to the building. They make it attractive. They open a Starbucks and they have things like that in the first floor. All of a sudden, everybody comes to the building. You have people visiting the building, and then you upgrade the rooms, right? And you double, triple the price, right? Because now you're doing short term, and you have corporate clients who are using that reservation system, right? So that's the kind of thing you think. You can take an old asset that had not much value, and actually this is a new asset, but it's an old mindset, right? And then you turn it, you say, well, how can we make more value out of that building? How can we make more money? And that was part of my idea. I had to come up with ideas for how to do that in addition to getting the client, right? So, okay, go back to how did I get my first asset from Tokyo Mitsubishi Bank? The way I did it was I came in and I presented myself as a upstart. Because here's the thing, is everybody in my position was presenting themselves as more reliable, you know what I mean, like more trustworthy, more experienced than a guy at Goldman Sachs, which makes no sense. There's no way the guy is going to believe it. But it's very tempting as a guy. You're like, I'm smarter than those Goldman Sachs guys. They went to Harvard. They did it that way. I did it my way. I learned Japanese my way. I did the numbers. I learned them like from the ground up. You know, the thing is, nobody cares about that. Nobody wants that. They'd rather have a Goldman Sachs business card and like let them handle it, right? So I knew I could not win by being the guy, by being the way everybody else was being. So how did I get them? The way I did is I said to the guy, I said, look, basically in this very sophisticated business world, okay, which it is, what I was dealing with was very sophisticated guys. The programs, everything's sophisticated. The risk analysis is unbelievable. The numbers that people are doing, like the intelligence of the average guy in this business is through the roof, right? So I was like, okay, I looked at that credit manager, and he was expecting me. He gave me a meeting. Okay, I made a meeting, and he gave me a meeting, and then he expected me to come in, brag, you know, like I'm this guy, foreigner. I can do this for you. You know, I can make you guys a lot of money. And I didn't do that. I went in there and I said, look, I know that this is, you know, I know that you guys are the biggest bank in the world, and that we're upstarts. Like I said, give me any crappy asset you have. Just give me something, and I will prove myself. Now, I didn't even know if he had crappy assets, okay? And I also said, and I won't tell anybody. I'm going to make sure that nobody finds out. My number one job is going to be to protect the name of Tokyo Mitsubishi Bank, because now I turned out that was pure luck, because that actually was his biggest concern. The manager of the credit department's biggest concern was any kind of lawsuit or loss of face for the company. So here was the situation, which I didn't really realize. They had a bunch of crappy assets, okay? They had these old factories everywhere. They had all this stuff, but they couldn't really sell them because Goldman Sachs didn't want them. None of the Morgan Stanley, none of these big companies wanted to deal with these. And nobody else was sophisticated enough to deal with them. Who like standard real estate agents, standard like brokerages could not handle these. They didn't know how to structure the finance. They didn't know how to keep it quiet. They didn't have any serious buyers who could just come out with money that were not bullshitters, right? Very difficult to do that. It's like you're asking for like the most sophisticated type of person in a business that's complicated, difficult. It's a single asset instead of 100 assets. You make a lot more money when you do volume. You know, somebody who's willing to get in gritty. I said, and I presented myself. I said, look, I'm willing to work day and night to make sure that I bring in, one, we have the serious investors. And we did. My boss had, not me. My boss had some serious funds that believed in him because of his background. And he had started this small company. And I said, look, I will work insanely hard for you, and I will make sure that I will do everything. My number one goal will not even to be make money, because this is a business where you either make a lot of money or nothing. Okay, there's no salary. Okay, the business I was in, it was either you get a $3 million commission or you get nothing. Okay, kick in the ass and a dildo up the ass, because I was going to work wearing a suit every day in Tokyo. My monthly expenses were over $5,000. It was stressful for me, to say the least. So I said, look, I'm the perfect guy to do this because I can handle it and I can keep it secret. Okay? So give me something. I will grind it out. I will find a buyer. I will make sure that everything gets done, and you will have this off your balance sheet without any hassle. That guy handed me a factory so fast. I mean, it was so easy to get that asset. And everybody in the business, like, nobody understood what I had done, the other guys. Not that I was so genius that nobody else was in the meeting, okay? I was in the meeting, and I knew, and then all of a sudden, it was like, when you're in a cloudy, miserable situation, the sun comes out, and the light comes down, and it hits you in the face, and you feel this optimism that there's a hope for the future. That's what happened, is I had unlocked it. I had found, because nobody was telling me this. Nobody, Japanese companies don't like anything embarrassing, okay? And I'll tell you this, if you're a young guy, a lot of companies have embarrassing things. There's a lot of situations like what I'm telling you right now, okay, in the world. And they're looking for somebody who has a sophistication, but the nitty gritty. It's like basically half criminal, half investment banker. Not really, because obviously you're not doing anything illegal, but I mean, that's the mindset I always have in my mind. Because I grew up in a trailer park. I grew up fighting I grew up a different way than I look now. And I don't even talk about it in real life, you guys. I only talk about this on Ronin. Because the way where I am now and who I am now, most people don't even believe me when they see it. They're like, how did you come from that? Like, what the hell? Like, how did you go from there to, it's like you're just a different person. It's like, but you guys listen, you guys understand, like, the struggles that we talk about here are fucking real, right? And I can tell you guys who I really am. And that's the truth, is I have both parts of me. So I can switch over, right? So that's what I kind of said. It's like, I'm going to junkyard dog this thing, okay? I'm going to find a buyer for this factory and take it off your hands. And I'm going to do it with the smoothness of I don't know what you call it, like a British butler in the 1800s. I'm going to be upright with the bow tie, standing and giving respect. The bank looks great. The asset disappears off the balance sheet. And that was that was the combination. But behind the scenes, I'm like this, switchblade, black eye, fighting in the dark, grinding it out. And then the third part of myself was the number cruncher. So sitting alone at night with the green light on and the old accounting light, right? And then grinding through the numbers accurately and not making any mistakes and checking over and over and over to make sure the numbers add up, to make sure it makes sense before I went and presented it to the bank, right? So those were the three images I had in my mind. Was the street fighter guy who was just, junkyard dog type guy, right? There was the ability to present in an attractive enough way that I could play the game with Goldman Sachs guys, okay? Not saying I could reach or whatever, I don't know, but it was good enough, okay? It was good enough. And then to be the number cruncher who was honest, strict, double checking, and got all the numbers right before he did anything. Those three characters is what made me successful. Those three characters. So you need to find out what it is in yourself and in the challenge that you're facing so that you can also do this very thing. When you go off the track, no one's there to grab you, to pick you up. You need to go deep, and you need to succeed massively. Because there's no middle ground for this shit. That's the thing. That's why I'm telling you this. Is like, there's no like, what you did before and what you're going to do next are not similar. It's a very big jump. And there are very big risks. And the rewards are just massive in your freedom, everything, what you make of yourself, the manhood that you have. You know what I mean? Like everything. It's like so fucking cool. Like I can't tell you, being unblackmailable and reaching your potential and finding these things out and getting off the track and creating a life that you want is just fucking amazing. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. It's absolutely astounding. So that's the path that I'm on, and that's what I'm talking about here. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to finish my yoga, and it's rainy season, but it looks like it's going to be not rainy today, so I'm going to get out there and try to get a little sunshine. I hope you guys have a good one.